I don't like all this. I've been I like sitting in a base medrash and learning and teaching and learning with people, but you see the waves that it makes and the accomplishments that it does. Okay. God is here. We can start.
Thanks for waiting.
That's not as you could go through this, but it's got nothing to do with the shit. Bunch of numbers, yeah. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are in Tzidkas Hatzadik, Ois Zayin. Thank you for coming. I know it's a funny day. I mean, a funny day. It's a celebratory day. People are home with their kids. People are at their barbecues. Matzmaut. And let me just remind you quickly that Tzadok HaKohen, we've done the first 6 passages in some depth, and it's really all coming to explain the first Mishnah in Brachos and the first Gemara in Brachos of Kriya Shema. Sman Kriya Shema. Me'mas Haikar in Shema ba'arvis. Let me just remind you of one point that will be important, a one sentence point, is that Reb Tzadok pointed out that that Arvis comes before Shacharis, not just because it says Vayera Vayiboker, but that in itself needs an explanation. But there's a yesod that goes through so much of what we learned and what we're going to learn, and that is that the night is brighter than the day, in the sense that at night you're closer to Hashem. And what I mean by that is that just like in the creation of the world, Hashem created the night first, and then He created the day. Presumably before Hashem created anything, there was Hashem. There was no tzimtzum into any type of gashmias. So and then it created in a more detailed and a more obvious way. And we have the world that we live in. We breathe, we talk, we eat. All the things that we go. But the night, the Laila, is a step sort of before creation, before actual creation, or like in our lives, before you could see what's going on. It's going on. So I pointed out that the Balatanya writes in Perek Chavav that if a person, if everything's clear in life, Baruch Hachama, everything is daylight in life. So that's beautiful. I mean, we should all be zocher to it. If it's not clear, it's actually closer to Hashem. It's more godly. And the way it works is, Atzilus Bria Yitzira Asiya. So the Choshech Bereisha Chashucha Hadar Nahir, as the Zohar says, the darkness comes first. From the darkness, Hashem made things more obvious. But if a person is in a place of Choshech, whether it's physically night outside or in your own life, you're in a place of Choshech, that could be a place which is more accessible to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is a very, very, very important teaching of Kabbalah B'chlal and Reb Tzadok specifically. This idea of being closer, and we're going to learn a little bit about that at the end of Zion. But Me'mas Haikar Neshma Ba'arvis, the first Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim, is not when you see how everything is perfect. Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim is when you don't see how everything is perfect. What's the Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim if everything is perfect? If we're going through a situation in life and we say Ein Oid Milvadai Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that there's only one thing, there's only Hashem. So if we see that when everything is going great, that's not Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. That's just everything's going great. So Mashiach came very good. But if it's Laila, so it's a different madrega. One has to struggle. One has to pull. One has to be, in fact, mekabel.
So why in the order of tefillas did Abraham was mitakin Shacharis first? Why it wasn't?
Right. So we say Yotzer Oru V'Orei Choshech, Yotzer Oru V'Orei Choshech, which isn't true. It's like Atzilus Bria Yitzira, so it really should be Borei Choshech Yotzer Or. You see that Choshech has to do with Bria. So the answer is, from our point of view, where we live in this world, we're working our way up. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. So Avraham was a boker.
So much of tefillas obvious is reshus.
Because it's
work your way up, even to that level.
Right, it's not for the faint of heart. Lila is not for the faint of heart. We're not looking to be lost in a dark forest in the middle of the night with no place to go. But if we're in that situation, we have only Hashem. All my equipment and all my is not there if I have only Hashem. So in a way, it's closer. But as you say, that's a place where that's already a madrega of Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov, of course, took us to Golus. Yaakov went to Mitzrayim, and it was in Mitzrayim where we had the Lila. So that's an important yesod. Meimas Hekar Nishma Ba'arvis. So I just want to say one more word about this, and we'll get into the text here. But just a very personal thing. I'm sharing it with you, and who knows who. But I was thinking, it's a personal thing. I'm saying this because maybe you can, be mechazik others. But I was thinking a lot about recently because I spoke on Shabbos Hagadol about wars and the ultimate war of Milchemes Gog uMagog. Don't want to go into that right now, but in that ultimate final war of all wars, the end of all wars. So at that time, that's when Mashiach is going to come, and who's going to survive that war? Very simple. People who have emunah. If you have emunah in Hashem, you're on the right side of things, and you will be a survivor and will live to Bias Mashiach and Kehillas Hamesim Be'ezus Hashem. So I'm thinking to myself, do I have emunah? Do I have emunah? Am I on the right side of that war? So basically, it's a war of those who have emunah against those that don't have emunah in Hashem, and those who have emunah are the survivors of this war, and then lo yisa goy el goy cherem, then there will be no more wars. So I thought to myself that I have emunah. I think I have emunah. But then as I have emunah. I grew up with it. I believe it. I think about it. I teach it. I have emunah. But then I was davening one day, and I asked myself, I have emunah, but do I have bitachon? So bitachon means, I actually trust that Hashem knows what He's doing, and He's going to do it. He's going to do the right thing over here by me. If it's easy, if it's difficult, if it's day, if it's night, if it's do I have that type of bitachon? So the answer is, I hope we don't need that to survive the war, to Dolev and Mashiach. But that's really a very, if you ask yourself this question, what my answer is not important here, but if you ask yourself this question, do I actually trust Hashem? Meaning I trust Hashem means that, if you're walking with your father who loves you and you love him, and you're walking through this forest, you're going to know that because of his ava, he's going to take you the right way. Don't question this. I trust him. He's my father. I trust him. I shouldn't. That's not the point. I just trust him. A little boy trusts his father. So my father told me I'll do it. So it's a different madrega completely to put yourself in Hashem's hands. Emunah, okay, we believe, but do we trust? Maybe is trust the right word? Is the word? Are we really willing to accept? Whatever Hashem says, Kol man da'avid Rachman Olatav, like Rabbi Akiva did. Are we actually willing to accept that? So that's whatever the answer is for me or for you personally is one thing, but that is the essence of Yiddishkeit. The Vilna Gaon says that the essence of Yiddishkeit is the mitzvah sabbatachon. That's what the Vilna Gaon writes. That's like the essence. It's not putting on tefillin, and it's not even saying Kriya Shema. It's the Hashem Echad in the sense is betachon hu ha'ikra mitzvah ha'gedola b'yoser mikol mitzvah haTorah ki hu etzem haTorah is the lashon of the that is the atzmius of. It's actually not, probably. Right. It might be, some darshan yes, some darshan not. But it's something bigger than that. Davening might also not be part of the Taryag, but just like, I made lifnei Hashem, and I'm in His hands. So I just wanted to share that, a personal thing. Okay, so let's look inside a little bit, and then I want to give a little introduction, and maybe with Hashem's help, we'll actually finish Zion here, which is not an easy teaching. Zman Kriya Shema, and here this is Reb Tzadok's ha'ara, which I have not seen anywhere else in the Mefarshim and Brachas. Now, I didn't see, that doesn't mean there isn't, but I looked and I didn't see. The Zman Kriya Shema, when is the correct time to say, we're talking about Meir now, when is the correct time to say Kriya Shema at night? So what does the Mishnah say? Mos Haikar Shema Ba'arvis, what's the answer? Somebody? When Kohanim start eating Truma. What in the world is the kesher between Kohanim eating Truma and me saying Kriya Shema? A bigger question, what does eating have to do with saying Kriya Shema? You see, here as he says, Man Kriya Shema Tole Bisman Achila. If you look at all the shiurim in the Mishnah on Beis Amud Aleph of Brachas, and then if you turn the page in the Brayso on Beis Amud Beis of Brachas, so the Gemara says there, the Mishnah says that when do you say Kriya Shema? When Kohanim start eating Truma. Let me explain what that means. That means Kohanim have to, before they eat Truma, they have to go to the mikvah, have to be matayar themselves, and then they have to have Harav Shemesh. It has to become night. You can't eat your Truma during the day for some reason, let's say. They have to wait till night, and they have to wait till Tzeis HaKachavim. So it's an interesting thing that, just the Mishnah could have very simply said, wait till Tzeis HaKachavim. Now, the simple pshat of that is that, well, that's how you know it's night. You see the Kohanim going around if you happen to live in the old city of Yerushalayim. But it's a funny kind of a shiur. And then the Brayso, if you turn the page on Beis Amud Beis, has a couple of other shiurim. No, it's Bizman Sha'ani Yoshev Oichel Pitoy Bamelech. Is that when the Kohanim eat their Truma? It's when poor people who are eating a piece of bread with some salt. That's all they've got, which is earlier. Rashi explains that's earlier. Why is it earlier? Why do Aniyim eat earlier than Kohanim? So the answer is because they can't afford a candle. Rashi says they don't have a ner, and since they don't have a ner, you want to see your bread and salt. L'cholapachas, you should have a sariya of the thing. You see what you're eating, so not to put too much salt on it, etc. So they eat during the day. They don't have the oil and the wick and everything to burn a candle, so they eat during the day. So while it's still a little bit light outside, so yes, it's after a full day's work or after whatever they're doing, but it's earlier than the Kohanim eating. So the Gemara says, the Brayso says, the Gemara has steers and all these things. What is the right shiur? Then the Gemara says, no, it's not what it is. It's not Kohanim and it's not Aniyim. It's when Roiv B'nei Adam Yoshvin V'Oichlan Sudas, and when most people eat supper. Okay, so you do a poll. When do most people eat supper? Now, most people have a light in their house. Even in the olden days, they have a light in their house, so light's not the issue. So it's not like a poor person who doesn't have a light. It's going to be a little later because you have light. You're more baravchus. So when do most people eat supper? Then the Gemara says, no, that's not what it is. This is a very interesting Gemara. It's b'shah. You remember the next one? B'shah yoshvin ba'oichlin sudasim b'leilei shabbos. When you eat on Shabbos Friday night, which is a big issue here. When do we eat on Friday night, right? So when we eat on Friday night, that's different than when you eat supper. Huh?
You start learning Torah about that first daf, and you right away encounter all these shiurim which seem to be arbitrary. And
Mamish arbitrary until Reb Tzadok makes seder. Until Reb Tzadok makes seder. So you have a shiur. So Rashi says there in the Gemara, what's the Indian of people eat their meal Friday night? So the answer is that on Shabbos, when you eat a Shabbos Suda, very simple, when you eat a Shabbos Suda, everything's ready already. Everything's muchan u'mezuman. You don't start making the fish on Friday night. You're not allowed. So you could get right to it. You go home, shalom aleichem kiddush, and you eat. Right? There's no. So whereas a normal meal would require, okay, time to eat supper, so go warm up the rice. Whereas the Friday night meal, dafka leil Shabbos, it doesn't require that kind of waiting. You sit down and you eat. So therefore, it's a little bit earlier. You understand what's going on here? So we have the Kohanim, which require Tzeis HaKachavim. You have the Ani, which requires light, and then the Gemara says a third shita about Roiv B'nei Adam, who when do they eat supper? It's going to be a little bit after Shkia, let's say, when it gets dark. I presume that the idea of night is that you can't work at night. In other words, there's not so much light around that you can sit there with your computer and work. So you're talking about so the light isn't such a problem, but you do have to start preparing supper. Your first work, and then the next shita is when on Dafka Friday night, so it's a little bit earlier. V'halachahi, and what's the halacha? Mishash hakohen imoichel mitzvah. Dafka, like if you want to know what the halacha krishma, it's seisach echavim. Not this, so the Gemara goes through all this v'raminu, all kinds of kashas on the shita, but the halacha paskin and Shulchan Aruch is that b'shosh hakohanim oichlem mitrumasan, when kohanim eat from their truma, that's when you're supposed to eat. That's when you're supposed to say Kriya Shema. So Tzadok's question is profound. Zman Kriya Shema toli b'zman achila. Of all the different markers that there can be in life for when you should say Kriya Shema, the marker is food. So what's the connection between food? Food is the ultimate in Gashmias, if you will, right? Like you go out for dinner, nobody goes out and says Kriya Shema. I mean, I guess you go to shul, but like that's not the celebratory thing. So why is food? This is what Reb Tzadok is coming to explain. Why is food and specifically the zman of achila, which is the koveya, zman kriya shema toli b'zman achila b'mishnah dereish brachas v'sham b'brais amud beis, which I read to you, so we could go to fast. Ki achila, why is this? Ki achila hi kiyum hachayim. Ki achila is actually life itself. That's how you live with food. B'kach kabbalas ol malchus shemayim, and so too is the spiritual aspect of Kabbalas ol Malchus Shemayim. And just like a person eats in the morning and the night, Kabbalas ol Malchus Shemayim. So too, we should accept Hashem into our lives, Kabbalas ol Malchus Shemayim, in the morning and the night, just like we eat in the morning and the night. I guess lunch wasn't a thing. You eat in the morning and you eat at night. Unsatisfactory in terms of this is not what Reb Tzadok means. How do I know? Because he explains this in many places, and he even wrote a book about Kedushas HaAchila explaining this in greater length. Aaron and I had a meeting this week with an interview with an author who wrote a book about food. So, woman, and very interesting, a deep woman, I think, understood. And she wrote about the Kedushas HaAchila, so, I guess her point was that like eating is such a major thing that we do in life. It's such all day long we think about food. I didn't eat. I'm fasting, intermittently fasting. I'm going to eat. I'm hungry. I'm not going to. I just ate. Boy, was I hungry. There's no end to how much we think about food, right, Chaim? Yeah. Food. We think about food. Like food. Like we think about food. More than we think about anything else. More than we think about money, we think about food. Like more than we think about sleep, we think about food. I think maybe by me it's close. So her point was that it was a davar shebekdusha, but she said something that was interesting. You see that the first avera that a human being ever did was they ate from the Eitz Hadas. So that was an interesting point. That was the first violation, if you will, is the Eitz Hadas, because food, Hashem put Adam Arishon in Gan Eden, Adam and Chava in Gan Eden, and surrounded them with food, and then they violated this mitzvah not to eat from the Eitz Hadas. Let me just say something a little bit more important than that, and that is that that wasn't the first mitzvah. The first mitzvah was to eat, mikol eitz hagan. The first mitzvah was it wasn't a lois essay of don't eat. It was an essay of eat. And it means to say, let me think about this. The very first thing Hashem did, Adam wakes up, creates Chava, now go eat. Sounds like a joke, right? I mean, like go eat. Don't bring a carbon. Don't, afterwards, first eat, then we'll talk.
That's all there was to do. It was a guy
and his wife.
It was a cruel as well.
After eat. First eat. Yeah. He put him there, la'avdo l'shamro, but he told him, eat.
So Rishus was a mitzvah to eat.
So I just want to read to you here something from Rabbi Yaacov Emden. Rabbi Yaacov Emden has a sefer called Migdal Oz, which is Meir sefer. So I just read you a couple lines. But tzarech shadei teda, one has to know, ki mitzvahs ha'achila hi a mitzvah harishona shebetorah. First mitzvah in the Torah. Shaleo nitztave Adam arishain, and this is what Adam was commanded in Mikol Eitz Hagan Achol Toichal. First. V'yesh lo din kadima l'chol hamitzvahs. Therefore, it should come first in our list of mitzvahs. Umitchila l'kach ba l'olam lahalois haruchnias shebedoimim. Why? Because our job is to take the ruchnias out of the inanimate, sameach, the vegetation, chai, the animal world, umidaber. We got to take that whole thing together, ulasakna, and to do a tikkun.
That is not what I thought he was going to say.
Well, you should eat people?
Mind blowing.
Yes.
I thought what it sounded like he was about to say was, because if you don't, you'll die, and then you won't be able to go to Hashem.
That's what I called unsatisfactory. It's not that you have to do Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim because, like, you can't live without eating. That's not why it's depending on the time of Achila. Because Achila is the ultimate goal, if you will, as silly as it sounds. That's the first thing, the first mitzvah. I tell you, I think Rabbi Nachman Breslov says that if you learn, there's Hilchos Beis HaKnesses, and then it says, right after Hilchos Beis HaKnesses, at the end of Hilchos Beis HaKnesses, Kuf Nun Hey or something, it says you should go to the Beis HaMedrash and learn. By the way, people should be makbid on that. I say, like, if you can, that's why we learn for 2 minutes after davening. It should be mechayel ol chayil. People, that's like optional. People run out for that. If you have to run out, you run out. But I'm saying that's part of the process. But in the Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't talk about doing that. That's a shortcut. It talks about going from the Beis HaKnesses, which wasn't a place of learning, to the Beis HaMedrash. And then the Shulchan Aruch says in between. But before you do that, you should eat breakfast. The Shulchan Aruch says Pasuk Shacharis, and you'll have koach to learn, and you should eat breakfast. So Reb Nachman says that you go to shul, and then you eat, and then you learn Torah, because Milan b'kodesh v'loy ma'rid. He says, yeah. In other words, like after you daven, go one step higher now, and eat.
What's the shot that food is that we're not allowed to eat before we daven?
Because you have to go in order. You have to go in order. So you start from the bottom. First, you have to. It's interesting. It's interesting what you're asking. I saw it, like here. He says in the Nesiva Shalom, Parshas Mishpatim. Here, he doesn't quote it. He doesn't say the name. V'zeu she'omru tzadikim. This is what tzaddikim have said. I believe he's referring to Reb Nachman and Breslov. Zeu she'amru tzaddikim shemihai taima oichlim acher atfila demalin b'kodesh. He says, ba'achila ushtia heim b'madrega yoser gavoa mitayra mitzvahs u'maisim toivim.
Well, how can there be more than Torah? If there's nothing b'kodesh you want to learn?
Right. So. Good question. I don't know. I was reading it, but I think what he means here by Torah, he means in the Lamaisa. V'hainu kasher malim oisam kekarban ukemizbeach. When if you eat in the correct way, in a sacrificial way, which I will explain. He will explain. Achila hi b'madrega gevaya yoser me'atfila. Okay. So you have here clearly but I believe this is the Nesiva Shalom.
Where is that?
Parshas Mishpat.
Rabbi, can you just repeat the language of Rabbi Emden on what we do by eating?
V'yeshla din kadima. Is that really the same thing? V'yeshla din kadima. The reason why the eating was the first mitzvah in the Chumash, V'yeshla din kadima l'chol ha-mitzvahs, has a din kadima before mitzvah. So mitchila lakach ba la'olam. This is why we're here, to eat. born to eat. Kach ba la'olam lahalois haruchnius shebedoimein soimeach chai u'medaber u'lesaknoi.
So is he saying that we have to take something that's doimen and make it Kodesh, or we must see the Kodesh from the doimen? What do we do?
So I'm going to explain. One more sentence in Rabbi Yaacov Haber, while you brought me back here. Lefichach ha'achila gedola min ha'tainus. Bigger mitzvah to eat than it is to fast.
Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur.
Yeah, Yom Kippur. Tainus ein el derech refuah lenefesh hachoila. V'chein matzino she'Eliyahu hanavi sha'arvim hutzrechu lahavi lo lechem u'basar ba'boiker. Okay, Eliyahu hanavi's on Har Carmel, a famous biblical story. Why is such a big part of this story that Hashem gave him dinner? Like, okay, it was part of the process, part of the kedusha. I mean, Eliyahu Hanavi, by the way, we find the whole story of Eliyahu Hanavi when he was running away, he went for days without eating. So this was all of a sudden here, etc., etc. This, by the way, is in the Migdal Ois, where he talks about every different thing, and one of his chapters is Aliyas Ha'achila, what it means to eat. So when Reb Tzadok says here, back to the text, that Kabbalas Omal Chushamayim is talui, is dependent on the Zman Achila. It's because the Zman Achila is a spiritual thing.
Yeah, we're not allowed to eat either before Krishma at night or in the morning.
Eating itself, right? So we have to make shalom in all this, but the Zman Achila. So, on the other hand, when you eat, you have to be makabel omal chushamayim. That's really what he's saying. I don't want to take the time, but just to give you a Meir Makom, and Reb Tzadok wrote a sefer called Machshavas Charutz, not the sefer on Achila. So in Machshavas Charutz, for those that want to look further, in Ois Tes, all this, so much to learn. In Ois Tes, where he talks about Achila, so he says here a lashon, which is important. Just one sentence. I have it underlined in mine. He says, "Kol hisgalus hu al yedei hapeh." Everything that's revealed in this world is revealed by speaking. Yes. Shal yada megala ma shebifnim. The peh reveals what's inside. What I feel, I say. Luchutz. Dibur peh. He says, and that's why, like in other words, avodas Hashem bepeh. Also through your peh, your intake and your output. And that's what achila is. So look at it this way. What makes us into the Atzelam Elokim? Ruach Mamal, the fact that we can talk. Cows can't talk, right? Monkeys can't talk. So what makes us into the fact that we can speak? So that's the output of Atzelam Elokim. The input of a malach is zero, and they can't talk, by the way. Malachim can't talk. Did you know that? Malachim can't talk. Right, somebody said a malach spoke to me. No. Malachim don't talk.
So all these conversations in the, when a malach comes to Lot or whoever,
happening at a different level.
Different level. Look at the Ramban right there, and that pasuk explains that it's not Dibur Kipshut. It can't be Dibur Kipshut. Vayera elav Hashem. But Vayera elav Hashem. That's where the Ramban is. So you have input and you have output. The input is achila. What do you? And the output is Dibur. So he says, why is that? Shebezeh, because it's through achila, same concept, just in Reb Tzadok language, which will bring us to where we are. Shebezeh, because when you're eating, listen to it, mishapech hamaychel shehu tzomeach v'chai, you're taking something which is, I don't know if we eat domain. Do we eat any domain? Any such thing?
Minerals.
Water is domain?
Yeah.
Minerals.
Water and salt.
Your magnesium pill, yeah. So you take domain, which by the way you can't have at someach without a domim. It's not going to work. No minerals, no plants. You're taking someach, which is vegetation, and the animals eat the someach, and then the someach is consumed by an adam, and it comes out that domim comes out in dibur. We were sitting a bunch of Bachrim once with Rav Huntner, Tzadok Livrocha, at a chasana, and they brought him a salad or a shiva. We were sitting at the, and he said, "Bring it to me after it turns into a cow." You want to stop it at that much, right? Let it go through its process over here. So the process, doimim, semeach, chai. I'm not getting into the politics of vegetarianism. I'm just saying that this is the total tikkun. But this is the shebezeh mishapech hamaychol shut semeach v'chai lemedaber. By eating it becomes chelik minafshay hu hadam ubesarei. Look what you've done. You've elevated it to the place of flesh and blood. Here's the key words that I want to bring out, underlined here. V'zehu midas malchus. This is the midah of malchus. Malchus? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's malchus. Why is this malchus? Zehu midas malchus. When you're doing this process of tikkun, you're doing malchus, means malchus Hashem. And malchus always has to come from the outside in, and he says, "Midas hapeh." Peh is malchus shehu gmar ha'ishtalshelus, because it's the end of the ishtalshelus. So let's explain what does it have to do with malchus. What it has to do with malchus is this: that there's up there and there's down here, down to earth, touch and feel. When Hashem is up there, that's not malchus. That's Hashem. Malchus ein melech b'layam means that the only time you can have malchus is if people are mamlich you. So it means that you can't be a melech in a vacuum. You can be the Bar Olam, you can be HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you can't be a melech. Hashem can't be a melech unless there's a malchus. So we have to be makabel ol malchus shomayim. Now connecting this with Kriya Shema here, Kabbalah ol malchus shomayim. Achila is malchus. I'm taking something which is so far from Avodas Hashem, a domem, and I'm turning it to Avodas Hashem. That means that I'm being mishtatef the entire bria into HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm making the whole bria, the whole world, into a place of malchus. Yes, that's the malchus Hashem. Everything, like David HaMelech speaks about the water, the sand, the mountains are dancing. Right? Harim, Rakadu, Che'elim, everything is alive. The world is alive. That's the Malchus Hashem. Nothing gets out of it. So how does this stone become part of the Malchus? The answer is, well, it created a vegetable. Okay. And then what? So that created an animal. And then what? And then I ate it for Shabbos dinner.
So the Lela Seder, where there's a lot of eating, I mean, I see he just mentions it a lot, but a lot of eating things to do with our mouth. But we also have the Korban Pesach, which is the Chai.
All about eating. Matzah, maror. Whole thing's about eating.
Matzah's no man.
Come doimim after. But
so that wasn't because that.
By the way, like if you don't say the Haggadah, I don't know any place that you're not Yotzei. If you don't eat the Korban Pesach, if you don't eat matzah, you're not Yotzei. You don't wine, you're not Yotzei. So like that, the Iker mitzvah of the Laila is Achila, which is true by Karbonos, it's true by Truma. It's true all over. Achila is a big part of this religion. It jokes about it, but it's true. What?
Matzah is the only one we have today, which is the mitzvah achila.
Mitzvah achila.
It's the only one left.
Mar is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Right. Yeah. So, but the achila is. So what do you do? What are you doing when you're so you get the seder, for instance? What you're doing is you're creating malchus Hashem. See all this, the matzah, the mar, and be medayik in this. The mar is the bad things, the matzah is the good things. One's yoyim and one's laila. Even the matzah itself is contradictory. It's we're going free. This is what we ate when we went free, and it's lechem oini. We're commemorating what we ate for 200 years as slaves. That's what we do matzah. If we want to just be free, we should do Wonder Bread. So it's all when you take all of these contradictions and all of the difficulties of life, the ups, the downs, the hard and vagvois, so and you get malchus. Malchus means everything, the good, the bad, the right down to the domain. So what I'm doing when I'm eating is this idea of one more thing. Let me just say about this. Important for me to say that at the very end of the story of Matan Torah, at the end of Parshas Mishpatim, you're familiar. Did all kinds of things. Moshe's Adam, Yisrael Alaam. I don't know if we pictured this when we picture Matan Torah, but Moshe took blood and he threw it on all the people. And the Sefer Abris, Rashi explains what the Sefer Abris was, and he threw blood on everybody. And then it says, Vayal Moshe va'Aaron, the last psukim in Parshas Mishpatim, with a break of Mishpatim from Yisrael, where the famous Matan Torah to this not as famous Matan Torah. Vayal Moshe va'Aaron nadav v'avihu. Well, we know what happened to that, right? Vayal Moshe va'Aaron nadav v'avihu v'shivim miziknei Yisrael. So this was quite an entourage that Moshe Rabbeinu had. They went up towards the mountain. Vayiru, and at that point they saw Eselekei Yisrael. They saw Hashem. They saw the God of the Jews, which is interesting. They saw Eselekei Yisrael. V'sachas Raglov, and what they saw, I don't know what this means, I'm just reading this psukim. V'sachas Raglov, and under his feet, whose feet? Hashem's feet. Kemaisa livnas hasaper, was a burning sapphire stone. Uke'etzem hashamayim latayar, which the Chazal say was the color of tchelas. Etzem hashamayim latayar. They saw the purity. They saw something here. Velatzile b'nei Yisrael le'shalach yadei. Nothing happened to them as opposed to what happened when Hashem started talking. Anochi Hashem alekecha. Velatzile b'nei Yisrael le'shalach yadei. What do you do in this kind of situation? Vayechazu es elikim. They saw Hashem. Vayochlu vayishtu. Let's eat. An amazing pasuk. Believe me or shame, it's just an amazing pasuk. Vayochlu vayishtu, like the most amazing spiritual experience in history. L'chayr. They saw Hashem on Har Sinai. It wasn't just Moshe. That's what it says here. Moshe, Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, and they ate. That's what they did. They ate. The Torah doesn't say any criticism on this, that they ate. Rashi brings two shitas. Rashi says, V'yechzu es elikim. What they saw the tzaras of Klal Yisrael, they saw the good parts of Klal Yisrael. By the way, Rashi says, Halatzile b'nei Yisrael heim nadav avihu. They were the Atzile b'nei Yisrael. What does Atzile mean? Anybody know while we're here?
Nobles.
Nobles.
The ones who would, the ones who were delegated to.
I don't think so. Vayotzal min haruach. That if Yoshua is near Moshe, he receives the ruach. Yotzal min haruach. Atzilus. He gets that ruach. So Atzilei b'nei Yisrael, they received here. This is what it means. They received here the ruach Hashem. Was it good that they ate and drank? Was it not good that they ate and drank? Okay, I don't know. That's a separate subject, but I just wanted to tell you that many of the Mefarshim, but particularly Kli Yakar, right there on this pasuk, juxtaposes this with Moshe Rabbeinu, who went up to Har Sinai, and for 40 days it says, Lechem lo yachalti umayim lo shasisi. So which is the right thing here? There goes to fast when you see Hashem. You're supposed to eat when you see Hashem.
He was on a high level. He was in a different plane.
Different level. So to be makatzer and what he's saying here, the Kli Yakar, he's saying it was a different thing because whereas Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai was not doing malchus. he was not doing Malchus. He was receiving from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he had to be like otherworldly. He had to be almost.
He wasn't in this world.
Yeah, he wasn't in this world. Was that what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to be in this world, Malchus. So what we're supposed to be, Atzilei b'nei Yisrael, those that Atzilei b'nei Yisrael, that by them it's vayochlu vayishtu. Now the Kehillat points out that you're going to have a different Torah, because with Moshe Rabbeinu you had a spaklaria me'ira, and with Yoshua you had a spaklaria she'ena me'ira, because Perkei Avos, we'll learn the Shabbos, Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai, Moshe Yeshua. I want to explain this, but the Gemara says interesting things. So Moshe was like the sun, and Yoshua was like the moon. So what's the difference between the sun and the moon? The sun is giving, and the moon is receiving. So, but the Kehillat says very poetically, he says it's receiving on one side. It's receiving on one side. On the other side, Pnei Yoshua shal yamin hamo. Here's your word, hamo atzolim. So when the sun is shining on the moon, the moon is called a me'utzal. It's receiving the radiation. Hachashuka mitzad echad umeira mitzad hasheni. The moon is interesting that way because obviously it's getting its light from somewhere else. So since it's getting its light from somewhere else, it's only light on one side and the back side can't get light. Whereas Moshe Rabbeinu was aspaklari amira is full surround sound over here, it's full surround light. So the difference, fascinating difference. Moshe, like let's for our purposes. What does it mean that we're shining on one side and we're dark on the other? It means we're humans. That's what it means. It means that we're part of this world. Doimeim, Semeya, Chayim, Medaber, like, and on the one hand, but then, like, in other words, we're human. So Kol Zman, who says? I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, was the Adon HaNaviim and the highest of all people, but he wasn't the B'sar. Moshe Rabbeinu could go to Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't the final story here. The story was us, Yoshua, making wars and feeding the people real food. Not mud. It was a different madrega of down to earth Judaism, where in that kind of a case, Hashem and His Torah. It's not about mun, and it's not about Hashem talking, and it's not about the Beresh Miriam. It's about Achila and Shtia. It's about down-to-earth Yiddishkeit. That's what it's about. It's about that and what's it called when Hashem permeates this earth? It's called Malchus. So hence, Achila is Malchus. Achila is Malchus. So when we eat correctly, Rabbi Yaacov Haber continues to say that if you don't eat correctly, you made an Egel Azav.
It's Midas Yom, Midas Light. The moon.
The moon is
You said half Muar, half Choshev. It's Midas Malchus. That is the definition.
Mamish, the definition of Malchus, yes.
The instruction is called Beish, all the Chodesh so it moves the Chek.
Yeah.
Right there.
What's the pasuk? I was trying to remember the pasuk just now, a minute ago. That's the exact pasuk. So it was preceded by Achila and Shtia for the wrong. So here you have it. Everything that you could do on the holiest madrega, you could mess up big time. It's like you could. That's why we read Parshas Harayos on Yom Kippur. Anything that could be the holiest, that could be the most tummy thing. What does it mean? It means the opposite of Malchus if you take it for yourself.
So not of an Avihu had that as well.
So like this will be your Pesach to think about, like what did Nadav Avihu? Here they were there. Nadav Avihu are very high madrega. We're not talking about. We're at a very high madrega, and vayochlu vayishtu, they ate and they drank. But what comes out is that the highest madrega can be achieved. The first mitzvah, let's just do this chazara, and then I always feel guilty I didn't get through all the text that I wanted to get through, but this is an important introduction. That the highest, what's the answer to the question? Why is Reb Tzadok's question? Why is the Zman Kriya Shema totally in Zman Achila? Answer: that the Zman Kriya Shema.
The whole point.
It's the whole point. The whole point of Zman of Kriya Shema is to be Malchus. Kabel ol Malchus Shemayim. How of course you're going to look at how Kohanim eat, because they are the ultimate in Malchus. Kohanim are the ultimate in Malchus because they're taking, it's not just the food that they're eating, the truma that they're eating, but you walk into the Beis HaMikdash. I imagine when the Romans walked into the Beis HaMikdash, their first reaction was, "Well, it was a nice place, nice little joint you have here, gold all over the place, tapestries all over the place." It was like, in a way, the ultimate in Gashmias. This was not an ascetic room, the place, and the Mishkan itself, and the Aron. This was beautiful. What's the pshat in being beautiful? Pshat in being beautiful is that's Malchus. So the ultimate Malchus, and Reb Tzadok's going to get there. The ultimate Malchus is when there's, hear my final sentence here, when there's no distinction between Gashmias and Ruchnias. To the Tzaddik, there's no distinction. He's not ascetic and he's not vain. There's just no distinction. Everything is Malchus Hashem. Everything's Malchus Hashem. But we need to get there in all the different shiurim. So the answer is that it's the same. Kabbalah's all Malchus Shemaim, keyword being Malchus, comes dafka as Reb Tzadok through the Achila.
They're Kohanim because they weren't involved in it.
Right. They're Kohanim because they weren't involved in it.
Waste products.
The only reason they're Kohanim.
Gashmias, there's
They made it. Their grandfather made a decision.
That was mind blowing. Rav said that angels don't speak. And last night I mentioned that Rav Austin has amazing stories. And one story he told, I confirmed the story. Doc goes as an angel, I guess, speaking to soldiers. He went to the house in Gaza, and the angel said, "Get out." And they got out in the house.
Maybe an angel can take over the body of a person. Like Elio Navi.
So then
Elio Malach Habris. Elio certainly spoke.
Okay, but that's not the story. As this guy said, he went into the house and there's a rabbi in the house. And the rabbi looked funny and spoke and said, "Get out now." And they all left and the house blew up.